Hey, it's Dan Zimmerman. Welcome to Illustrate to Educate. Don't forget to subscribe for weekly, objective videos on topics that matter. Are you ready for war? In this video, we'll duke it out in one of the biggest ongoing battles of all time, the console wars. First, we're going to dive back into history. Let's start the timeline at 1985 when Nintendo came out with the Nintendo Entertainment System, or the NES. It was the best and most enhanced 8-bit console on the market. And with Nintendo's strict regulation on game developers, it led the NES to being a worldwide household success. By 1989, Nintendo was at the top of the gaming market, with the new release of the Game Boy. It was hard to compete with the dominance Nintendo had in video games. Nintendo released a variety of games that became hits and are still around to this day, like Mega Man, Super Mario Bros., and The Legend of Zelda, among others. However, 1989 was also the year that the first real competition arose, Sega and its Sega Genesis console. Sega had a hard time competing with Nintendo until it found a way to break through the NES stronghold with the Sega Genesis. With Sega gaining ground on Nintendo, Nintendo responded with the release of its own 16-bit console, the SNES, or the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. This, along with the release of games like Street Fighter II, the popular arcade fighting game developed by Capcom, was enough to fare good competition against Sega. After that point, it became a competition of who had the better game titles. Both had their fan favorites, like Sonic the Hedgehog and Mario, but it was the third-party games that proved to push sales forward. Sega also competed with Nintendo's Game Boy by introducing the Game Gear, which had larger control setup and its full color capabilities. However, this battle did not go as well as the Sega Genesis, when Nintendo's famous Tetris game kept the Game Boy on top. Overall, the winner of this console war goes to Nintendo, with 49 million units sold worldwide. In 1995, a new competitor entered the market, Sony's PlayStation. Along with the price and PlayStation's revolutionary 3D graphics, Sony marketed the PlayStation very well. A year later, Nintendo introduced its newest addition to the franchise, the Nintendo 64, with 4 controllers for multiplayer capabilities and controllers with a joystick for 3D games. The Nintendo 64 went on to do quite well with games like Super Mario 64 and The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, but Nintendo's 33 million units did not come close to the PlayStation and its large support of third-party games. PlayStation wins this console war by selling over 102 million units. The PlayStation 2, released in the year 2000, would become the best-selling console of all time, with an amazing 155 million units sold. Its success was again attributed to their selection of games and innovation. The PS2 was the first console to support DVDs, which was a new technology at the time. The PS2 also had great game title support, with exclusives like Grand Theft Auto and Gran Turismo, and it once again had huge third-party support from game developers. The Nintendo GameCube and Microsoft's first console, the Xbox, were both great consoles that had their own audience, but with both companies selling a little over 20 million units in their lifetime, it was not enough to remove PlayStation from its spot at the top. In more recent console wars, Nintendo saw its way back to the top with the Nintendo Wii. Microsoft and Sony were fighting their own battles against each other with the Xbox 360 and the PlayStation 3, both being similar consoles in terms of hardware capabilities. Sony, however, had a pretty rough start to this console war, with the price of the PS3 being considerably high, starting at $600. Xbox was able to have a great start because of their cheaper console and great online support, and towards the end, Sony was able to turn it around with price cuts and their great lineup of game titles. Both the Xbox 360 and PS3 sold approximately 80 million consoles respectively. While Sony and Microsoft were battling it out, the Nintendo Wii was skyrocketing in sales. Nintendo was taking on a new strategy to create a different kind of gaming experience that appealed to a different audience, the old, the young, and families. Nintendo wins this console war, selling 101 million units worldwide. Currently, Sony's PlayStation 4 is on the top in this 5th console war with over 113 million units sold, and most of them in the 3rd and 4th year of its release. Microsoft released the Xbox One at a higher price point and focused more on marketing the Xbox One as an entertainment system rather than a gaming system that has resulted in around 50 million units sold. Nintendo released its new edition of consoles, first with the Wii U, which turned out to be a terrible flop and came nowhere near being as successful as the Wii. Both Microsoft and Nintendo are making a comeback thanks to Microsoft's price cuts and Nintendo's new system, the Nintendo Switch, which has sold over 65 million units worldwide. But in the end, the PS4 nearly doubled the Xbox and Nintendo sales in this console war. Now, we arrive at the final console war. Both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X consoles have just been recently released at the end of 2020, so sales comparisons wouldn't be a fair way to compare them. But when comparing the specs, the Xbox Series X is the stronger console on paper. However, Sony claims that the PS5 will still produce better looking games because of its Ultra SSD card. When it comes to better exclusive games, the PS5 in many articles is said to have the advantage, but Xbox has higher reviewed online capabilities. The winner is up to you. Lastly, is the console wars over? Some say Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft are still going head to head in some big areas, but at the same time each is working to achieve something different in the gaming market. It's like they're all playing the same game but competing for different trophies. Everyone's win conditions are different. Sony may well have the best-selling new console in PS5, Game Pass could become the biggest game subscription service with millions of new subscribers, and Nintendo will inevitably sell tens of millions of Mario games. If you ask me, that sounds like a win for everyone. Did you enjoy this video about the console wars? Please like and share the video, subscribe to Illustrate to Educate, and comment on your thoughts about who you think deserves the wins in these console wars. A special shout out goes to Pow Theory, who assisted in the content of this video. Be sure to check out their videos to the right on game reviews and DC and Marvel comics.